Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Trump seems to be misjudging a few things about his tariffs plan. He is suggesting that we will need to accept chlorinated chicken for lower tariffs, seemingly unaware of the massive political and public opposition to this. He's also said that our government is happy with his tariffs. Our government were therefore forced to respond with, like Eckers, are we happy? Is Trump actively trying to make the EU stronger by getting countries like the UK to form much closer bonds to it? But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So, to say Trump hates the EU, he isn't half given us a lot of reasons to work more closely with them. Abandoning European defence has already brought us closer, and his tariffs are also creating huge pressure for both the UK and the EU to want to mitigate as much of the trade damage as possible with closer relations with other markets, including each other. Our plan A is to agree a limited trade deal with the United States along tech lines, and for Trump to then drop the baseline tariffs, at least lower, preferably get rid of them altogether. It seems realistic because Trump has strongly suggested that the way to get the tariffs lowered or dropped is to do a deal. Not that he attempted to do any deals with the markets he insists are the worst offenders. But like I said yesterday, it could help Trump shore up support back home. I mean, although he is saying, oh yeah, it's all going terribly well, you know, people are looking at the stock market and going, is it though? Is it? So if he agrees a deal with a country like Britain, for example, it agrees a deal and then he drops the tariffs, he gets to claim this win. Look, you see, I acted tough. I got this deal. I've now dropped the tariffs. Brilliant, right? And then invite other countries to cut a deal. Only, according to reports, Trump is trying to go beyond the areas which are being discussed. He has apparently suggested if we want to see the tariffs dropped, we will have to allow chlorinated chicken into our market. Nigel Farage, of course, has said that we should absolutely let it in, but more on him in a bit. So before I go further, I had better just quickly explain what the issues with chlorinated chicken are, because, you know, not everyone understands the problem. Because some people will think, because there are those who will try and go, oh, but what about this? Because they'll think, okay, so prepared salad in bags in supermarkets in Britain right now are often chlorine washed. You go, oh, if you could wash that, why can't you wash the chicken? What's the issue? You're just making excuses. There are two problems. The first is it's not so much the chlorine washing, it's the fact that the rest of the factory line doesn't observe hygiene measures because they think the chlorine washing will deal with it. So a lot of American businesses, they think the chlorine washers will just kill the bacteria, so they don't need to focus on hygiene elsewhere in the process. The result is that when you then test these chickens, they are dangerously unfit for consumption. And American law doesn't force them to tighten up their hygiene procedures to stop leaning on this chlorine wash. But there's another problem as well. Often the levels of chlorine are very high because those factory owners know they're relying on it as the sole bacteria killer, and it's cheap. So the actual levels of chlorine in the chicken often are high enough on their own to cause serious illness. Chicken is dodgy enough if you do not handle and prepare it correctly, right? Chlorine washed chicken is just outright dangerous. But there's also a political problem. Chlorinated chicken and hormone-fed beef became the focus of public opposition to lowering Brexit food standards. The opposition was overwhelming. So much so that even when the Tories dropped our food standards for the Australia and New Zealand trade deals, they couldn't go as far as dropping it low enough to allow in chlorinated chicken or hormone-fed beef because the public backlash was too intense. Should the issue become serious and more polling is carried out, I'm quite sure the result would be the same again. We haven't actually had polling for some years. Actually, basically 5 years now. Essentially, Trump is asking for the impossible. If he demands it, if he absolutely insists on it, he's basically killing off his own deal. He would basically be saying we need to go elsewhere for our trade deals, like, you know, I don't know, the EU, for example, as we're going to be stuck with the 10% tariffs, or maybe more if he decides to act out of spite. I particularly liked how the White House, when discussing this with journalists, attacks the UK as having non-science-based standards when they are slashing scientific research left, right and centre. In fact, Trump's government is openly hostile to scientists and scientific reasoning. But it makes no difference. Chlorine washed chicken could actually be genuinely safe. It isn't, but it could be, and it wouldn't make any difference to the talks. Public opinion is dead set against it so strongly, there is no way any government could even attempt it. Even the Tories, as I say, had to observe that as a red line. Interesting that Farage has said he is in favour of bringing it into the country and join an election campaign, because he didn't have to say anything. Farage, like the rest of his Reform UK cronies, were not even at the debate discussing the tariffs. What's that? Farage didn't attend a vital debate like this? Yeah, it's actually more newsworthy when he does turn up for a debate. But the point is that Farage has chosen to make this statement, unprompted and presumably knowing how out of touch it is with the general public. You know, the list of lines of attack against Farage that Farage himself is preparing is growing. Blaming Ukraine and NATO for Russia's invasions, support for Trump's policies when even the Daily Mail today are attacking it, waiting to privatise, the NHS is saying, we should absolutely have private health insurance, and now wanting to allow dangerously unsafe foods into the country. If only people knew that his ratty Brexit was causing lots of dangerously unfit for consumption food to come into the country anyway, albeit illegally, we might get the momentum to reverse Brexit more quickly. But it's not just the chlorinated chicken where Trump is clearly badly misinformed. He has apparently said that Starmer's very happy with the tariffs. Like bollocks, Starmer seems to have said. Not his exact words. A minister was asked if our government agreed with Trump on that point, and they said, no, we're disappointed with the tariffs being imposed globally. So did Trump really think we approved, or was he just saying it because he says mad shit all the time? I notice how Trump said that his tariff plan was going very well, despite literally trillions of dollars being wiped off the stock market in a day. There have been even more losses today. The dollar fell as well, ironically making his tariffs worth a little bit less and hurting their exports. What's that going to do for that balance of trade that he thinks is already tilted against him? But if he doesn't wise up, all he's actually going to do is cause an immense amount of pain, both at home and abroad, and cause America's main trading partners to cut the USA out of global supply chains. And this won't be driven by governments as such. I mean, they may agree closer trading arrangements with other markets, but the supply chains are set up by, customers and businesses at the end of the day. They will just go where the sales are better and the purchases cheaper. It's just natural. Supply chains set up naturally like that. And that is not going to be the USA in either case. And as far as the UK is concerned, it is absolutely correct we don't choose between the USA and the EU. But if the USA chooses that we can't actually discuss any improvements to our arrangements, then we can always spend the extra resources redoubling our efforts with the EU, which is always the priority anyway. I mean, I'll keep reminding people, various research has shown that if Labour can get the improved trading relationships that they're after, which doesn't even need to cross over any of their red lines, then that will make up for the Trump tariffs. In fact, at the current level of Trump tariffs, it will more than make up for it. And they will be hoping to do that next year. We would like to have better trade with both the US and the EU. But if the US puts up impossible barriers to progress and the EU is more welcoming, then all Trump will do with his strategy is make the EU stronger and the USA weaker. China too, because I'm talking about this from a sort of Euro-centric point of view. But in actual fact, the Asian markets which are going to get pounded by this will, of course, flock to China, won't they? So Trump, who hates the EU and hates China, is going to make both of them stronger. Trump, of course, is too stupid to ever see this. But what about key American voters? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.